This is a shop talk where we're gonna talk about things I shop for. No, wait. So we're gonna be shopping for things I talk about. No. Where we're going to talk about the shop. Come up with better intro for shop talk videos. Hey everyone, welcome back to the workshop. My name is John with Just a Nazarene Leather Company, and this is another shop talk where I talk to you about different tools and techniques that I use in my leather workshop. Today's topics is straight edges, not rulers, but straight edges, because not every straight edge that you have is an actual ruler. This is an 18-incher by Pacific Arc. So I'm going to show you my different straight edges that I have, because as you go through your leatherworking journey, you're probably going to accumulate a number of different straight edges for different tasks. And so I'm going to show you mine today. I'm also going to show you how, when I get a brand new one like this, what I do to actually prepare it to where this piece of metal does not damage the leather on any project that I'm working on. All right. After I show you that stuff, show you how I prepare the ruler, I'm then going to show you how I cut an initial straight edge on an entire side of leather at my workbench. I'll show you the setup, how I do it, and give you some recommendations there. For all that and more, stay tuned. In my workshop, on my workbench, I've got my straight edges tucked kind of around the edges. I've got a 6-inch, 1 foot, there's 18-inch straight edge here, and then on this side, I've got a 2-foot straight edge here, and then a 3-foot or a yard straight edge there. For my fuller length straight edges, I have a 6-foot and 8-foot straight edge up underneath my workbench, this little lip here. All right, so I've got different hooks that I put in, and so I've got my 6-foot flat bar and my 8-foot flat bar. So let's get everything up on the workbench, and I'll show you what we've got going on, how to prep it, and get your straight edges to where they do not mark up and scar your leather. All right, here we go. They are all by a specific company called Focus, Pacific Arc. So my 6-inch, my 1 foot, 18-inch, 2-foot, and 3-foot. The 6-foot flat bar is 1.25 inches by 72 inches. I believe I got this from Home Depot. This is steel. The 8-foot length is 1.5 inches by 96 inches. So it is aluminum, or aluminum, I guess. If you're here in the US, Home Depot also. I like the Pacific Arc rulers. All right, they are very good. However, I found that the 3-foot, 2-foot, 18 inches, all made in the USA. Oh, sorry, as you can see. However, we get down to the, slide it, to the 1 foot, it is made in China. So is the 6-inch, and you maybe can't tell here on camera, but there is a noticeable difference to the thickness and the quality. Need to slide this over to actually pick it up. So yeah, overall I really like them. I just wish all of them were made in the US. But now, in addition to these rulers and straight edges that are just perfectly straight, I also have one over here on my pegboard cabinet, which is a square. All right, I got this from Weaver. This was actually the very first straight edge that I bought. I think I got it all the way back in 2018. They had the option to buy this thing new with the inclusion of this non-marring grip tape on the bottom. And so I chose that option because I didn't want to go shopping for my own grip tape, and it was just a little bit more expensive to do that, so that's what I opted for. I loved it so much, I found that Weaver actually sells 4-foot lengths of this grip tape so that you can apply it to your various straight edges. So some of these rulers do not have grip tape on them, but for my 8-foot straight edge that I have, as you can see, I have put the grip tape on that. I did the same thing for my 6-foot. Got it from my yardstick. I don't think it's done for the 2-foot. The 18-inch, having trouble. See, this is why I'm having trouble getting these, because the grip tape adds a little bit of thickness to it, to where it raises it off the workbench just a bit. And so this one obviously does not have any grip tape. Neither does the 1-foot. I've already done that 6-inch ruler. So part of what I'm going to show you today is how to get this grip tape from Weaver Leather Supply onto the bottom of these rulers. Because this comes in a 4-foot strip, I am not going to have enough to do all 3 of these. All right, so I've got an 18-inch, I'm sorry, a 2-footer, an 18-inch, and then a foot. So I can do 2 out of the 3. Now, I have another 18-inch ruler with grip tape on it, so I'm going to save this for another day when I order again. So I got a 2-foot, a 1-foot, and I actually do have another 6-inch that doesn't have grip tape. So I'm going to go get that, and I am going to show you how to properly apply this tape to those 3 rulers, the 2-foot, the 1-foot, and then another 6-inch ruler that I've got. Stand by. For this process, you will of course need the rulers or straight edges that you're going to use. You're going to need the grip tape that Weaver supplies. You're going to need a cutting tool, very sharp, X-Acto knife, craft knife, something like that. Make sure you have a fresh blade. And then you're going to need some rubbing alcohol and a paper towel. All right. The alcohol is for cleaning off the surface to make sure there's absolutely no grease, no dust, even from your fingerprints that have gotten on it, so that you can adhere the sticky side of this grip tape properly to the metal to ensure that it doesn't come off. That is especially important when you are buying the flat bar from Home Depot. There's lots of dust, lots of grime on it. You need to make sure and clean it properly and thoroughly to where your paper towel is clean as you wipe across the metal to ensure you get all of that dust off. So that's what I'm going to do to all 3 of these, is get them cleaned off with alcohol. So pour a generous amount on your paper towel, and you're going to be wiping off the underside of your ruler. So notice the grime that's come off of that. Some of that could be, I don't know, maybe some of the black of the words, some of the char from the laser engraving that's on it. I'm not really sure. Or if they use some type of ink or dye to put this on, that is rubbing off. Or it could just be general grease and grime and junk. But either way, this is why we do this. So let's get the other ones done. And then with the 6-inch, because this is so thin, this is actually thinner than the width of the tape that we're going to be using, so it is especially important that you leave no fingerprints or grease on the side that you are going to be taping. With these other ones, because the rulers are a little bit wider than the grip tape, actually this foot may be exact, but the 2-footer is a little bit wider, so there's going to be a little bit of metal showing on either end. All right, so it's okay if there's a little bit of fingerprints on the very edges, but try to get it as clean as possible. All right, now if I can open up this here little bag, I'm going to get this grip tape out. So 4-foot length, we are going to, and my knuckle smudge the edge there. So we're going to get rid of that. Alright. We're going to peel back just this edge, and this is very tacky, very sticky. So what we're actually going to do, let me move these other things out of the way. I'm going to start at this end, and I'll bring it closer to where hopefully you can see better. Okay. And I'm just going to peel back a bit of this, and I'm going to hang this over the edge, go a little bit longer, just a tiny bit, and try and make sure that the grip tape is evenly split on the ruler, right? Whereas there's the same amount showing on either side. And then you are simply going to hold on and slowly pull this bottom piece off and keep the tape taut. We don't want any slack in it. And you're going to slowly press this down, getting a little bit off so I can correct this as I go. And you're just going to work your way down, slowly peeling back on the plastic and pressing this down. And then right as you get just past the end, press down and then use your cutting tool to cut that off. Set the excess aside, and now after you recover your blade, you should have a straight edge with a strip of non-marring grip tape on the bottom. You've got a little bit extra sticking out here, all right, around the end, and this hole is obstructed. So you're simply going to use your fresh blade X-Acto knife to follow along and trim that down. I kind of trim at an angle instead of straight up and down because I want to bevel that as I cut it. So that piece is done. Let's go to the other end. And we're going to do the same thing straight across. And then for the hole, because I do want these things hung up, I'm simply going to poke in, say from this side. Okay. And I am going to find my edge and cut all the way around and cut out that hole. All right, that might ding up your blade a little bit, but that's why you buy these things by the 100. All right, so we're going to do the same thing to the other two, and then we will have our nice grip tape on all of our straight edges, and that's how I prep them. Alright, for this one I'm going to do something different because the ruler is about the exact same thickness as the grip tape. So instead of working my way down like I did for the 2-footer, I'm going to unroll it the entire foot and try to go straight down as best I can. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut off the excess. So there we go. Not bad. Not bad. Then I'll cut this across. For a situation like this, where it's exact, but just because you are human, you're probably going to make a mistake. I probably did. There may be a little lip of this tape on either side, so it may be best to run your blade down each side to trim up, actually that wasn't bad, any potential bits of the tape. Actually, there wasn't much, a couple little small pieces, so not bad. Alright, so I'm going to poke a hole this side, I'll see it there, and then I will cut that circle. And we're good to go. Now for the final one, the 6-inch, we're going to clean this one more time. And as you can see, we've got plenty of tape left. So I'm simply just going to take it all off and stick that on. Peel it up, and now I have to trim off all the tape that is excess. Alright, this grip tape by Weaver Leather Supply, great stuff. Cannot recommend it enough. It goes on very well. That's how you apply it. Clean your metal first, put it on bit at a time, and stick it down. Once it's on there, it's pretty much on there for good. So that is how I prepare all of my straight edges so that they do not mar my leather projects that I'm working on. Let me show you now how I cut a straight edge on an entire side of leather. I'm going to show you how I cut a straight edge on my workbench. Hopefully this angle and the microphone picks up what I'm talking about. I'm going to use my regular box cutter for this. Because I'm using the entire length of the workbench, I don't want to cut into the wood that I have here. So I actually have 4 2-foot rubber mats that I use, that I simply spread out along the length of my workbench. This ensures that I protect the wood and I have my surfaces squared away there. Now I of course will need my leather hide that I'm going to cut. So I've got it here, and actually we're going to unroll this end. Alright, unless you're buying leather panels, alright, leather hides and sides do not come with straight edges, so you have to do that yourself. With a limited workbench space that I have, this is how I have to do it, making sure that I don't have leather that gets scratched and marred up by my punches that are hanging here. As you can see, there is not a straight edge. There is a nice bend along the back here, and so I want to waste as little of this as possible. So I'm going to bring my bend that's the furthest back, alright, as close to the edge as possible. And you'll see that I've got some leather hanging off either end. Okay. Now I simply grab my 8-foot straight edge, the aluminum flat bar, and put that on top. Now, when I do this, I am actually going to clamp down this flat bar so it doesn't shift on me while I'm cutting this straight edge. But because the leather has a thickness here, if I clamp this down, this will cause my metal straight edge to dig into the side of my leather and mar that up, and that kind of cuts into the usable space that I have. So I've got clamps that are attached up here, and And underneath the clamps at the top, I have cut myself little squares of leather. This is to place underneath my straight edge and give me some thickness to where my straight edge isn't angled down. It's actually flush with the leather that I am cutting. So I've got different weights of this stuff, and I would match the weight of my square to the weight of the leather that I'm cutting. So I'll place these at both ends, directly on the mat underneath the straight edge, and then that is where I will clamp my straight edge down. So let me get it in the proper spot and clamp down properly. Now at this point, this is where I would normally go ahead and start to cut, but what I found, especially when you make your cut all the way down and get towards the end, as you cut this leather, it is going to want to fall off onto the ground, and that creates a lot of weight at this end that will actually pull your leather underneath your straight edge, and your straight line you're trying to cut will actually curve a bit towards the end, so we don't want that. So to ensure that this doesn't fall off, I'm actually going to clamp each end of the leather with more clamps. So for this I need 4 clamps total, and I've just noticed going back and forth I actually don't have my leather in the correct spot, so there we go. Slide that underneath just a bit. I want my straight edge as close to this curve as possible, so I am preserving as much of the leather as I can. So these are, I believe, just 2-inch clamps from Home Depot. All I'm going to do is right at the very end is clamp onto my leather and the workbench while still leaving space for my blade to get between there. What that's going to do, that's going to keep this leather up to where it doesn't drop while I cut it. So I'm going to do that to both ends, and now should be ready to cut this thing. So this is a relatively new blade. I'm going to keep my hand on the straight edge to keep pressure all the way down. There we go. See how my leather wanted to fall? My clamps keep it in place, and that way my whole hide doesn't pull underneath at the end and give me a weird curve. So when I unclamp these, I now have a scrap of leather that I can make different things out of. Maybe some bracelets, maybe some keychains, maybe some gussets for some of my pouches. I do not throw this out. I can still use this. Let's take a look at our straight edge and see how it turned out. Well, I think that turned out pretty well. What do you think? Notice on my leather, there's no marks, there's no scratches, there's no scuffs. Nothing like that from my straight edge, and it goes straight all the way across. It doesn't curve in. So that is my method for how I cut straight edges into leather. This is an overview of all of my different straight edges. 3 foot, 2 foot that I've got hanging there, 6 and 8 foot lengths up underneath my workbench. And then 18 inches right there, 12 inches and 6-inch straight edges. And of course my square is right there. All right. So thank you so much for joining me in the workshop today for another shop talk. I hope there was some value you were able to gain from this. My name is John with Just a Nazarene Leather Company. Go with confidence. Bye now. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to check out more content that we've got on the channel. Also, consider becoming a channel member. Link below.